Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are we all doing, everyone? How has your week been? Or especially, how has your weekend been going? Or how it has been since it already passed. I know mine has been great. Mine's been very relaxing. So it was all around a good time. And also, considering that as I am recording this, it is April 22nd, meaning that today is Earth Day. And on this special little occasion, just remember to go and have a little moment to do something in order to go and help out the planet. Rather if your actions are small or big or anything like that, rather it be to put in more work onto recycling, or if you would go as far as to actually plant a tree, or actually go and clean up your streets, or clean up any of the parks from any like litter or anything like that, everything would go and actually help out. Because keep in mind, it's not just people and your community that's important. It's also nature and the creatures that live there as well. I mean, we all share one major planet, so why don't we go and actually take the time to go and actually help out our home in the first place? Because considering that there have been some massive problems over the years and they have been increasing, especially with climate change and especially deforestation, pollution, and all that kind of stuff, let's actually do something in order to go and help things out in order to make this planet a better place to live and in order to have it become healthier in the future. So that's just my little Earth Day message that I like to go and put out there. But anyways, now with that out of the way, we still have a great episode. We still got plenty of things to go and talk about, both in animation and what's been happening in movie news in general. So we're going to be in for a fun time. And so with that said, I would like to pass this on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it. Are you ready? Let's see now. Yes. I see people are prepared. That is great. That is wonderful to see. And so with that said, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that we have today, originally, I was thinking about starting this news story about Seth MacFarlane teaming up with Martin Scorsese, or at least their film foundations, where they would team up in order to restore some classic cartoons, ranging from the ones by the Fleischer Brothers, the George Pal Puppetoons, and the Paul Terry Terrytoons as well, including the famous Three Bears from 1939 that spawned the popular meme, "Somebody touch my spaghetti." And I mean, I know that a lot of people did get upset over Seth MacFarlane because of his recent producer credit onto Good Times on Netflix, but it is actually something that I feel like animation fans should actually applaud MacFarlane for, especially with someone who's as prominently known as him, and actually helping out animation like that, I think is honestly very, very awesome. And honestly, great work, Seth, on doing such a wonderful task to preserve animation history like that. But that is not what I am going to talk about, though. Instead, I would like to go and discuss about a trailer that was just released today, and I think this is one that deserves to have our attention. So with that said, let's go ahead and begin this by taking a look at the trailer for the upcoming summer blockbuster, Deadpool and Wolverine. Ah, son of a fish. Hold on a sec. I gotta... There we go.
I told you, you're not welcome here.
And that is Deadpool and Wolverine, to which the movie shall be coming soon to theaters on July 26th. And I think there's only one thing that I can honestly say about this, and I just want to go and apologize right now for my language. Maybe some might get offended, but I feel like it's kind of necessary to go and say this as a response to the trailer. Let's fucking go, dude. Seriously, this trailer is just absolutely awesome. Now, you probably do recall when the teaser trailer first came out. It was like our first major look into this movie back during the Super Bowl. In fact, that was actually the biggest moment of the Super Bowl this year that is not related to either football or Taylor Swift. Like, everybody was just going crazy for that trailer. It really was something that helped build this up to become one of the most anticipated movies of the summer. So in that regards, a lot of hype has already been built up, especially with what Deadpool will have to offer in terms of his comeback to the big screen. But now we got this trailer with Deadpool and Wolverine. And of course, the biggest highlight being that now this is our first chance where we get to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine coming back to his beloved character in action, interacting with Deadpool. And one thing I gotta say, and this might sound a little bit weird, but one thing that I personally feel like from this trailer is that it feels like this movie is going to give us something that we haven't had in a very long time, and that is a genuine crossover. Now, I know that nowadays crossovers are just very common, especially with cinematic universes being very much normalized, especially in the MCU, and then you would have like some other universes like with DC or recently with the Monsterverse and stuff like that. But what I meant to say with a genuine crossover is something that you don't think that these two entities would go and work together, but they are. And these are two very familiar entities where you got Deadpool that is popularized by Ryan Reynolds, and then you got Wolverine that is popularized by Hugh Jackman. And now we see the two coming together. And like these are, and especially these are two characters that we know very well. And we see them working together and see how their chemistry can work out. Because I think really the best thing is that even though we already been introduced to Deadpool and how he's going to be in this particular movie. And of course, that is one thing that is really worth getting excited over, especially with Ryan Reynolds' performance already, like as hilarious as it can be. I honestly got a good laugh as well, right at the end, especially with like with the whole talk about cocaine, like with this part right here.
Cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching powder?
They know all the slang terms. They have a list.
Even snowboarding?
Even disco dust.
White girl interrupter?
Even forest bump.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes! But I can't.
Like, that is actually funny. I did enjoy that. But really the true highlight is, of course, Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine. And what you would expect from this Wolverine in particular, like, he is back full force and, like, everything that you know and love, whether it be from any of the early 2000s X-Men films or from that Wolverine movie or from Logan a few years back, it is the same thing. And especially like with the fact that you got Deadpool, whom you know is going to be delivering the laughs, Wolverine, it feels like in this trailer, he's going to be delivering the heart. And like there is an aspect where it's more than just being like a satire on superhero films and all that kind of stuff. But there's also going to be an additional layer where there will be some legitimate character development, where we will be learning about a bit more of a serious side from Wade, where he's doing all this in order to save the ones that he loves, because, you know, those are all the people that he cares the most. And without them, well, his life would be meaningless. And that's why he's asking the help of Wolverine right here. But then you also have this Wolverine who has a bit of a backstory where, well, he wasn't able to go and save his universe. And, well, chances are, with how meta this can be, we probably have seen the obvious clue, especially seeing more of that famous background yeah, hold on a sec. Let me just adjust that properly to get a better view of it. There we go. Yeah, like you can see in the background with how 20th Century Fox has been completely demolished. So, like, this isn't just like a meta gag. This could actually play a significant role in the story. And honestly, like, if it's able to go and do that, then I think this really could be something great, something worthwhile. Like, if you're able to take something that would seem like a really hilarious gag, like a very small element, but then you would give it a lot of significance, a lot of meaning, and even a bit of a backstory to it, then that's like a major signal of some really clever writing right there. It's very much like that one spider that bit Miles Morales in the Spider-Verse movies, where in the first film, like, you just know it as that little spider that gave Miles Morales his powers. But then in the second film with Across the Spider-Verse, that's when, like, the spider gets a massive backstory, and you learn so much more about Miles, how he got his powers and how he shouldn't be a Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff, where suddenly everything starts to make sense. So who knows, like, that spider in the Spider-Verse films, like, for Deadpool and Wolverine, it would be what we see here, that destroyed 20th Century Fox logo. But either way, though, like, rather if that's going to be the case or not, this is just speculation, of course. But either way, I would have to say with this trailer overall, it is definitely great because we know there's going to be some great action. We know there is going to be a lot of laughs to be had, especially from the humor of all this, whether it be from Deadpool or whatever is around Deadpool. But now we got a little bit of an idea in terms of what's going to be the heart of this picture and some character development as well from both Deadpool and Wolverine. It's going to be a movie that will be delivering so much, and it does explain into why there's just so much hype and anticipation for this feature. And if this can deliver, oh boy, I think we're in for one of the biggest movies of the year. So if they can manage to go and capture that well, delivering so much to audiences, then we're going to be in for a massive summer blockbuster. And like I said before, one of the biggest movies of the year. But would that be the case? I don't know. But personally, I definitely am excited for this. And if you are excited to go and check out Deadpool and Wolverine, then keep in mind that it will be coming to theaters on July 26th. And with that said, I now would like to go into the chat wall, and now I would like to ask you all, what did you all think about the trailer of Deadpool and Wolverine? Are you guys excited for this one? Do you have any questions about it? Do you have any criticisms that you would like to share? And also, I'm going to go and write down on the chat right here, I'll go and create a poll to ask you all, hold on a sec. Right over here. Will you be watching Deadpool and Wolverine? So I'll just go and put in a yes, and I'll also put in a no, and we'll see how this poll shall go. All right, so let's see what the chat wall has to say over here. All right, so to be perfectly honest, I thought this trailer was kind of cringeworthy. I thought the first two were fine, but this, I don't know. Great to see Hugh back. Dogpool looks cute, but that frickin' shot at the end with the portal, I'm scared. I don't know what to expect from the director of all three Nights at the Museum movies and that one Google movie with Owen Wilson that no one saw. Hashtag let's effing go home. Okay, interesting. I guess, from the sound of it, you might be worried about how they're going to integrate the MCU into this, because it is true where suddenly at the end, they did, like, we do see Deadpool and Wolverine suddenly jumping into, like, one of the Doctor Strange portals. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, the way they integrate the MCU won't be, like, too forceful. But I understand that there could be some concerns like that. You know, you're not wrong with your statement. Anyways, let's see now. Man, this still looks like barrels of fun. Not only is the comedy still very Deadpool, but Hugh Jackman is still killing it as Wolverine, and the action still goes hard as well. It's R-rated, so I could say it, hard as fuck. It's gonna be a major must-watch, but overall, I'm just glad the MCU is getting comfortable with F-bombs, especially with Guardians 3, which essentially gave us the live-action remake of Mario Says the Fuck Word. Yeah, that is definitely true. I do get what you mean there. All right, anyways. I love how they made this trailer as vulgar as to assume fan fears of Disney neutering Deadpool. 2023 may have been a rough year for Disney at the box office, though certainly not for lack of quality. But with this, Inside Out 2 and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, 2024 will be theirs to win. The one movie will justify Disney buying Fox. Well, that and having Put On Your Sunday Clothes as their music for Kingdom Hearts Wally World. What else is there to say but LFG? Yeah, I mean, like, I like, this is the one thing that I personally feel like with 2024, there are some signs that things might turn around for Disney if they do play their cards right. At the very least, just like how Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 turned out to be a big hit for Disney, I think with Deadpool and Wolverine, so far with the hype that they have been building up, this could actually work out well. And not to mention that they do have some other movies that are still massively hyped, like with Inside Out 2, like you mentioned, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and even Moana 2 that's coming at the end of the year. So far, things can actually look pretty positive. It's hopeful. I mean, chances are there is a possibility maybe like they'll still be facing a few bombs like they did last year, but so far they are on track to put themselves back into place. At least that is in terms of their movies. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? Seeing Wolverine and Deadpool together without the stink of X-Men Origins ruining everything brings me so much joy. 2024 is a year for X-Men fans to eat up well. Yeah, and you know what? With the whole R-rated thing, I think Disney has already established that, at least with Marvel, they're not afraid to go into the R-rated territory. Especially with very early this year, we did get Echo, which I know that it's gotten some like mixed reactions, but at least it's like Disney's first big step to go into the R-rating territory, especially with the violence and the cursing and stuff like that. But then we got, so far with what we have seen with Deadpool and Wolverine, the trailers are already convincing people well that Disney can manage R ratings pretty well. And I mean, like, technically, you could say they already have with the Searchlight Pictures logo, especially when, well, not a lot of people have mentioned this, but technically last year, one of Disney's biggest hits is Poor Things, which was a major award contender during this year's award season. So in that regards, I think that's another sign of how Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be helping out Disney quite a bit. Let's see, what else do we have here? As someone who loves the first two Deadpool movies and is a huge MCU fan, this got me excited. The action scenes are awesome, the fourth wall jokes are really funny, and it's awesome to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, so overall, this is one of my most anticipated films of 2024, and I can imagine this is what MCU needs right now to gain attention again. Oh, absolutely. Let's see, any other comments? Let's effing go. This is awesome. Deadpool is hilarious as always, and Wolverine is badass as always. I love the first Deadpool, and although I haven't seen the second one, I can't wait for this. This looks awesome, and I can't wait to see this. I could tell you're definitely excited right there. Oh, and did I miss out on the poll? Son of a fish. I keep doing that, man. I keep missing out. I need something to help remind myself onto like how to do the polls very well, you know, like how to go and like try to like keep an eye on it. It was like, oh, according to this poll, it says this, you know. I'll need to go and research that in order to actually pay more attention better to it. Anyways, any other comments just to go and read? Let's see now. This is definitely gonna be my most anticipated movie of the summer, especially coming out after my birthday. The downside is that I'll be at GalaxyCon at the same weekend, but I hope I'll be able to catch it soon. The action, comedy, and performances look good so far, but still, let's fucking go when it comes out. Alright, I think I'm gonna read one more comment and then we're gonna go on our first break. I really love seeing the references in this trailer. The previous X-Men characters that haven't been on screen in a while, the MCU references like the Ant-Man mask and Strange's portal, Madonna, that Frozen reference because I still love Frozen, and the joke will never fail to crack me up. And most importantly, the Wolverine suit. The suit is so beautiful, so yellow, like the comics and cartoons. I agree with you, Matt. Let's effing go. All right, and once again, considering that there is a lot of hype, and the chat wall has proven that, if you are excited to go and see Deadpool and Wolverine, then once again, it will be coming out on the big screen starting July 26th. And with that said, I would like to go into the first break, and when we do return, we will be talking about another Disney movie that shall be coming soon, but one that honestly, I am not as hyped up as Deadpool and Wolverine, and you will see why pretty soon. All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story, we're going to go and talk about Disney. As much as I sung their praises with what they have presented with the trailer of Deadpool and Wolverine, or, well, technically it would be their Marvel subsidiary, but regardless, though, there is another Disney news that did catch my attention. Although, honestly, I wasn't really into it as much as I saw the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer. And what I'm talking about is regarding another attempt of trying to make a film adaptation of Space Mountain. Yes, you probably know the famous Disney ride that you would find in just about every of the every Disney park out there, whether it be at Disney World or Disneyland or Tokyo Disneyland or Disneyland Paris. I don't know if the Chinese theme parks like Hong Kong Disneyland or Shanghai would have one. I could be wrong. I don't know. But either way, though, yes, for a while, Disney wanted to go and make a ride, or they wanted to make a movie based on Space Mountain. And they've been trying to do that again and again and again, especially after the big success of Pirates of the Caribbean. And every attempt they would try to do, well, it didn't necessarily work out. But this time around, they are hoping that maybe this try could actually be successful, especially when now they have hired two writers by the name of Josh Appelbaum and André Nemec. And on top of that, they have even listed other people that are going to be attached to the project and that they have committed to try to make this Space Mountain movie happen. Reading from my source here on The Hollywood Reporter, it states, Jonathan Irich from Rideback, the banner that is behind Netflix's hit live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender series, is producing the feature, which has been in development for several years, along with Joby Harold and Tori Tunnell of Safe House Pictures. Harold was the project's previous writer. Rideback's Ryan Halprin is executive producing. And by the way, for now, we don't have any other information regarding this movie. They don't necessarily have a release date or any actors that are attached to it or anything like that. Not even a director. So this is still an extremely early production. But with that said, in case you don't know who these two writers are, you probably may have noticed that whenever there are articles that would go and discuss about this, they would often refer to them as the showrunners of Netflix's failed live-action adaptation of Cowboy Bebop, on top of doing some other workouts as well, including Amazon's spy series called Citadel. But on top of that, they have done some other works in which have been pretty well known. It even states in this article here that they've also worked on Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and they have written the two Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live action movies from the mid-2010s. So they are going to be the ones responsible for trying to bring this Space Mountain movie to life. And on top of that, you may have noticed that in this article with the picture of these two with Josh and Andre, you'll notice in the back that there's another movie that they have worked on that, actually does have a bit of a strong connection to Space Mountain. Yes, this wouldn't be the first time that they have written for a movie that is theme park themed per se, considering that they are also the writers of the 2019 animated feature Wonder Park. So honestly, this is something that for quite a while I have worked on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. This is something that I've heard about for quite some time. Again, like I've stated before, with the Space Mountain movie, Disney has tried to do so again and again and again in order to adapt the ride into a feature film. And I've seen many different names come and go to work on this movie. I remember one in particular that honestly, I'm glad it never really happened. There was at one point when Max Landis, the infamous writer, was attached to go and work on that Space Mountain movie, but nothing ever came out of it, thankfully. And I guess it's because of Max Landis's reputation that pretty much got destroyed, right? You know, like it got completely ruined with everybody calling him out with how much of a dick that he is, especially towards women. So in that regards, yeah, like he's out, he's out of the picture, and so is his script. And yet it's kind of surprising to see Disney still being attached to it. But then again, I would say that I don't know if it's either Disney or the production company Rideback that really wants to go and do it. And the reason why I bring up Rideback is mainly because of the fact that they also worked on another Disney movie last year. And it's actually very similar to what we have here with Space Mountain, because Rideback is also the production company that was responsible for last year's Haunted Mansion movie. And we saw the results that occurred. It didn't go well with critics, and it turned out to be one of Disney's many box office bombs. And yet, even after that, they decided to look at Space Mountain and say, yeah, let's do that again. And in my honest opinion, I'm not really into this idea. I'm starting to feel a little bit tired of Disney trying again and again to turn some of their fan favorite theme park rides into movies. I just don't feel like they're necessary. In fact, I know this sounds like a pretty bold statement, but I'm personally debating if I feel more tired about Disney making the live action remakes or Disney making movies based on their theme park rides. Because honestly, say what you will about the live action remakes, at least there are a few hits that did come out of it, like Jungle Book, for example. And I'll even admit there are a few that, they actually turned out all right. Like, Cruella wasn't that bad. But in this case, though, with all their movies based on rides, honestly, those, it's very rare that you would find one that legitimately hit. They just do not want to accept the fact that Pirates of the Caribbean was a movie that is just like a once-in-a-lifetime moment. That a film that is just very unlikely to go and succeed, that against all odds, somehow it became a massive franchise and pretty much has been given new life of its own, where it kind of redefined what it is, more so than just a Disneyland attraction. And yet, ever since that first Pirates of the Caribbean, Disney just kept on chasing that dream again of trying to make lightning strike twice. And no matter what attempts they would try to go and do, they would just fail again and again and again and again. Rather it be, they try, there was the attempt before Pirates with the Country Bears that went nowhere. They tried to do Haunted Mansion twice, and both of them did not work. And then you also got The Jungle Cruise with Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt. And some people would say that that was a bit of a modest success, but even looking back, not many people are really that interested in it. Even when I look back, I know I reviewed the movie and I gave it somewhat of a positive review, but honestly, would I want a Jungle Cruise 2? Honestly, no. Really, I don't want that. Yeah, and so I even see in the comments, some people brought up, well, technically there is the Muppets that actually did a good, actually made a good Haunted Mansion adaptation. But then again, some people might say that is a little bit of an exception because It's the Muppets. The Muppets know what they're doing, and the way that they treated the mansion, the same way that they treated both, like you could debatably say that they treated the mansion similarly to how they treated Treasure Island and A Christmas Carol. That's how that adaptation actually worked out better than either of the two movies. Anyways, going back to what I was talking about, the fact that they would go and try to turn them into these like blockbuster feature films with an all-star cast, I just feel like it's very unnecessary, and it takes away so much of the magic of the original theme park rides. Honestly, yeah, it's one thing about Pirates of the Caribbean, and that you would go and include Johnny Depp and Orlando Bloom and Jeffrey Rush and all those people, and to really go and liven up Pirates of the Caribbean. But then, like, you got all the others, and it so much of it feels unnecessary. Like, do we need Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson for the Jungle Cruise? Or do we need Danny DeVito and Owen Wilson and Rosario Dawson for the Haunted Mansion? And then you would have, like, the freaking Hatbox Ghost just morbing around and stuff like that? No, you don't need any, okay? The magic of those Disney attractions is that you can only find them in one place, and that is right there. It's to go, like, you want to see the characters, you want to see how they are in action, you have to go to those places. If you want to experience the Jungle Cruise, then you go to Disneyland and you go into that cruise. You jump on that boat. You want to go and meet some of the characters of the mansion, like Madame Leota, the Hatbox Ghost, the Black Widow Bride, and all those characters. You want to meet them? You go to the mansion. You go to Disneyland, you go to Disney World, you enter into that mansion. Like, that's what you got to do. But trying to make these big blockbuster movies with giant budgets and an all-star cast, it takes away that magic. You're kind of taking those concepts and you're just turning it into like almost every other feature film out there. And honestly, now that you're going to do the same thing, or you want to keep on trying to do the same thing with Space Mountain, I just don't really see it working. Not to mention that there was one attempt that they have tried, that they tried to do it, and it did manage to get released, and it went nowhere. It just became a flop. Do any of you remember back in 2015 with the movie Tomorrowland? Even if they got an acclaimed director like Brad Bird attached to the project, it didn't really work out. And unfortunately, it ended up becoming one of Brad Bird's weakest films. And I'll just say right now, I didn't hate Tomorrowland. I thought it was an okay opportunity. Although, it did get annoying with the way that it really tries to hammer into audiences. It's like, be optimistic! They would try to do, they keep on doing that, but I thought the movie was okay, it's like a decent watch, but still though, they tried to do it, but it just failed overall. And with Tomorrowland, yes, it does count as one of those movies based on some of Disney's rides, considering that it's actually based on an entire land, and they actually do make references to some of the rides at Disney. There was one scene in the opening where we see them in It's a Small World. There was also, you see a reference to the Carousel of Progress, and you actually do see Space Mountain in the background. But people didn't seem to be that interested, and that's why the movie turned out to be a box office bomb. So in that regards, if Tomorrowland didn't work out, even though they would have people like Brad Bird and George Clooney attached, what makes you think a Space Mountain movie is going to work out? And no offense to these writers, I know they could do some very solid stuff. And in fact, speaking of Brad Bird, they were part of the writing team for Ghost Protocol. But still, though, I don't know, especially with some of the credits that they have done, especially if you're going to tell me that the showrunners of Netflix's Cowboy Bebop is going to be writing a Space Mountain movie, that doesn't necessarily give me confidence. That doesn't seem like something where I feel like, okay, yeah, I could see that working. And especially with such an ambiguous concept like Space Mountain, how the fridge are you going to go and turn that into a movie when really the only thing that's popular about it is the mountain itself? unless, like, maybe you could go and have, like, some kind of plot line that relates to the Halloween version. You know, you could have something relate to the Ghost Galaxy and incorporate that into the plot line, make the Ghost Galaxy a villain or something like that. That, you know, there could be some possibilities, but still, though, I feel like with Space Mountain is that it is pretty vague because, like, you got this giant spaceship that is shaped like a mountain and it could go to space. Like, what the fridge else can you really do with it? Now, I will be open to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, there could be a chance that this idea might actually work out. There could be a possibility that when this movie would be released, it could turn out to be a massive hit. It has, like, a great story, and it could be, like, one of the best movies based on a Disney ride since the first Pirates of the Caribbean. There is that possibility. But for now, it's just, with stuff like this, it doesn't give me any confidence. And I'm starting to feel tired of Disney trying again and again to go and adapt their theme park rides into movies. Like, honestly, like, I know they still have a bunch of those coming up. Like, there is still that, like, I believe there's still that Figment movie that's still in the works. But I don't know. For me personally, as a fan of the Disney park rides, like, I'm on the side of, let's just have the rides be rides and that's it. I don't want any more Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I don't want any, like, Space Mountain movie or anything like that. Just stick to let the rides be the rides. And if you want to try to make a movie, Disney, think about something else. Because honestly, doing something like Space Mountain, I feel like there's a higher probability than not that this could turn out to be a box office flop. So I just want to go and put out my piece on it. And, and just express, like, a bit of my tiredness of hearing this news again and again. Unless you can offer something great on the table, give us a very solid excuse as to why is it that this particular attraction needs to turn into a movie, then honestly, I just personally don't feel on board with it. So that is my piece on that. Now I would like to go and ask the chat wall, what do you all think about a Space Mountain movie? Are you guys on board with it? Are you a little bit hesitant? I would love to know your thoughts on this. All right, so let's see what we got here. Honestly, doing a Space Mountain movie is just not my type. Yes, Disney had success with Pirates of the Caribbean, but the other films like Haunted Mansion as well as Country Bears were underwhelming. I think Disney should just stick to original animated films since that's what Disney needs to do. That's what Disney needs right now, and good ones. Well, I mean, the thing is that, unfortunately, the public kind of scared Disney from doing any more original animated films. It would be nice, and I mean, if people would just give a chance to stuff like Strange World and Wish, maybe we should have gotten more. But no, Disney doesn't want to do it because, well, now, that's why we're pretty much stuck with, like, Zootopia 2, Moana 2, and Frozen 3 and 4. So I'm just saying, you can't blame Disney for not doing any more original animated features when audiences have expressed clearly they don't want any more original animated features. No excuse, no complaining about the quality of that. That's on you, folks. Oh, let's see now. I love Space Mountain. I think it's one of my favorite Disney roller coasters next to Expedition Everest. With that said, I don't think it really needs a movie adaptation. Not only because of how films like Haunted Mansion or Jungle Cruise, but the fact that they got the dudes from Wonder Park, the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles, and Cowboy Bebop, they'd be better suited for a film based on Stitch's Great Escape. This just proves further that Pirates of the Caribbean may have just been a flash in the pan. Exactly. There's an unfortunate likelihood that Pirates of the Caribbean is just this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That with Pirates of the Caribbean, you're never going to see that kind of massive success again. But Disney is just in massive denial, thinking that, oh, they could keep on doing this. They, you know, like, somehow they'll keep on making more and more, and somehow, like, they'll be able to have another Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, they've been in talks to make some kind of reboot of Pirates of the Caribbean. And honestly, the more that they try to shove Pirates of the Caribbean down my throat, I feel like, honestly, why don't we just go back to the ride? Let's get rid of all the references and let's bring back Pirates of the Caribbean to how it used to be. Like, whatever, like, you could keep some of the updates that you have done, like with the new auction scene and whatever. But honestly, I just want to get rid of all the movie references because I'm honestly that sick and tired of what Disney is doing with all these film adaptations of their rides. Let's see now. Thanks for saying this, Matt. No matter how many times Disney tries to recreate the same success they had with Pirates of the Caribbean, it's never going to work. Pirates was just a fluke that came out at the perfect time. Not every theme park ride translates well into a movie, and unlike the Disney remakes, the nostalgia factor just isn't there as much. I have nothing against this Space Mountain movie or the talents involved, but I cannot imagine this becoming the huge success that Disney wants. Yeah, honestly, I do agree with you. Like, honestly, like, I'm not against, I have nothing against either Josh Appelbaum or André Nemec. I'm glad that they're still getting some work. I'm not against any of the producers that are involved and stuff like that. It's really just, it's Disney and even a bit of ride back that honestly I'm just they keep trying to do this again and again, but like I just want to go and tell them like it ain't freaking working. Like I know you guys need some box office hits, but this ain't it, man. Like you're not gonna find like $1 billion blockbuster with freaking Space Mountain. I'm just saying. Oh, let's see now. What other comments would there be? Oh man, this movie is in trouble. Space Mountain is already a hard ride to adapt into a movie. The only viable way I could see it working is if they use elements from Ghost Galaxy, or make it a Star Wars movie by adapting Hyperspace Mountain. But the idea of the showrunners for Netflix's Cowboy Bebop making it just makes my blood run cold. I really don't think this is gonna work. Besides, there's a simple way to do a Space Mountain movie. Put the Muppets in it. Muppets from Space Mountain, if you will. Yeah, I guess you could say that the mansion pretty much started a little bit of a trend that if you want to go and make a successful adaptation of a Disney ride, just throw in the Muppets. Like if you want to go and make another Country Bear movie, it better star Fozzie Bear and his mom, or else that movie is gonna be screwed no matter what. All right, what other comments would there be? Let's just see now. I wonder what is a good idea to make a film adaptation of Space Mountain. Here's a bright idea. Let's get the producers of Wonder Park to work on this. They know about theme parks, am I right? This is my biggest yikes for me because it's almost a fact that Wonder Park sucks. I don't mind film adaptations of theme park attractions, but please do it right, Disney. I'll just stick with the Imagineering story and the rides at the park. Honestly, you actually do bring up a good point. Now, I just want to go and say that I know opinions are very subjective, and I mean, if you like Wonder Park, that's perfectly fine. But I just know that, yeah, like, considering that the failure that it became, and especially the reception that it has gotten, I do agree most people, including myself, yeah, are not fans of Wonder Park whatsoever. Even if the animation is nice, the movie, though, yeah, it sucks. But you do bring up a good point. So far, if you don't count the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, the best adaptation of the Disney ride so far is the Imagineering story. Like, that was a wonderful documentary, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's on Disney Plus. I believe it's one of the first programs that came out on Disney Plus, and it's fantastic. Like, honestly, go check that one out. Okay, I think I'm going to read one more comment, then we're going to jump on to the next break. At its core, the classic theme park ride are based on genre pieces, like how Pirates of the Caribbean, blood homage, Jungle Cruise is a true life adventure homage, Haunted Mansion, a haunting homage. So this movie could pretty much be an homage to sci-fi from the 70s, the era the ride opened, which touches of the 50s and 60s space age, with a whimsical touch of the Paris ride. Make it fun, make it thrilling, can't be worse than Brad Bird's Tomorrowland. I'm hyped for Living with the Land and the Soarin' movie. I do see what your point is. I do get what you're bringing up with the way that it could be an homage to those classic retro space movies, but again, we already got Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland tried to do that, tried to have that retro sci-fi feel, and it didn't really work out. So again, if Brad Bird cannot successfully do a Tomorrowland movie, or a Tomorrowland movie that would be as great as some of his other works, then what makes you think this is gonna freaking work, especially with the Wonder Park writers working on this feature? Alright, but anyways, let us now go on to our next break, and when we do return, we will go and talk about an acclaimed filmmaker who's on his path of making his final feature. However, his final feature may not be what you think, because the plan that he had, well, it ain't gonna be it. So stay tuned for that. And we're back! And our next story that we got, well, we are going to be talking about one of the most acclaimed auteurs in Hollywood right now, Quentin Tarantino. Yes, chances are there is one movie that Quentin Tarantino has made that you have absolutely adored or that you had a lot of fun with. Rather it be with Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction or the Kill Bill movies, or maybe even Inglourious Basterds, Django Unchained, or even recently with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But as you may have probably heard, he only has one more movie left. He wants to do one more movie, and then that's it. He will then retire his movie career. So a lot of people are anticipating and waiting to see what that movie shall be. What does Quentin Tarantino have in store for us for his grand finale for a movie career? What is his grand finale of his movie career? That is what I meant to say. Well, if you think about what his current project is, I'm just going to say right now, no it ain't. No, it's not. He just scrapped it all together. Yes, Quentin Tarantino has revealed that his next and final feature film, The Movie Critic, will not be his final film because he pretty much scrapped that feature altogether. Now, for those of you who don't know what The Movie Critic is or what he had in store with that film, let me just go and read you from my source here again from The Hollywood Reporter. As it states, Tarantino had been honing The Movie Critic for months. Set in 1977 California, it initially drew inspiration from a cynical movie critic that the filmmaker grew up reading. But sources say it morphed along the way into a film that would feature Brad Bird as Cliff Booth, the stuntman he portrayed in an Oscar-winning performance in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It is unclear if this film was going to be a prequel or a 1970s set sequel to Hollywood. But in recent weeks, Tarantino had a change of heart again and moved away from the film entirely. So basically, the big reason as to why it ended up getting canceled is not because of the studios or any executive choices. No, it was full-on Tarantino's decision and, excuse me, he pretty much decided, you know what? I just don't feel like it anymore. I don't want to do it. I don't think this is going to be my last movie. This is not to say that he's going to continue this and then he'll keep on making movies afterwards. It's just that he decided to scrap this because he doesn't feel like it would suit well for his grand finale. So he's just going to go and move on to the next project to see what will be the subject of his final feature film. And by the way, I just want to go and quickly mention this before anybody would think otherwise. But when I say that he's going to retire from his movie career, that does not necessarily mean that he's going to retire in general. It's not like after his last movie, you're never going to hear from Quentin Tarantino again. There have been reports that have stated that after he would go and do his last feature, he would still work on some other stuff, like maybe do a mini series, or he would go and do some plays and stuff like that. He has some other ideas of what he wants to do. It's just that with movies, he's pretty much done with it. So I just want to go and make that big clarification. And also, I know that there has been a story related to something like this where Tarantino has abandoned a movie but then later decided to come back. And that is in regards to The Hateful Eight. Because while he was working on that feature film, somehow the script ended up getting leaked, in which the public got a chance to go and see it, and that made Tarantino furious, down to the point where he decided to just abandon the project altogether. But the script got a lot of positive reception. A lot of people very much loved what they were reading with The Hateful Eight. Which then, in return, Tarantino decided, okay, well, if people are actually liking it, maybe I should get back into this project. And then, lo and behold, Tarantino ultimately decided to go and create The Hateful Eight. So it did come to be. And from there, I know a lot of people might speculate that, well, considering that it happened with The Hateful Eight, maybe there is a possibility that Tarantino could come back to the Movie Critic. Maybe he would want to go and actually create that film as his final feature. And there is that possibility. That could happen. But the chances of that, for now, they are pretty slim. And for now, all we can do is just pretty much wait until we hear reports about what his next movie is going to be. So, who knows? Maybe he'll think about something else. Maybe he'll get back into the Movie Critic. But honestly, we just don't really know. But honestly, there is one thing about this. The reason why I wanted to go and discuss about this, with how this is Quentin Tarantino's final picture and that, you know, he's still working on this. Like, honestly, I just find this to be very fascinating, because with how much of a big name Quentin Tarantino is, with how much he is considered to be this legendary filmmaker in Hollywood, I personally feel like whatever this project may be, rather if it is either the Movie Critic or if it could turn out to be something completely different, I feel like this is going to be a massive success no matter what. Like, the anticipation is going to be massively high. Like, people are familiar with the works of Quentin Tarantino. They know what to expect from the guy. And because of that, there's going to be a lot of hype that will be built up no matter what that story is going to be. Maybe he's going to go into a completely different direction than what he would normally do. Maybe he would get back into something that would be action-oriented. Maybe he could go and do like some kind of sequel to one of his already existing films. Maybe he could do like a sequel to Reservoir Dogs, or do like a Pulp Fiction 2, or maybe a Kill Bill Volume 3. He could possibly go and do that. The possibilities are endless right there. But whatever it is, the fact that this is Quentin Tarantino's last feature film, that's going to be the big thing that will catch everyone's attention. That's going to be the big thing that will make this a motion picture event, that will have people line up to go and see the movie and have it be one of the biggest successes of the year that this could potentially be released. Especially with the fact, like, again, the fact that this is Quentin Tarantino's finale is a big deal. And especially with Hollywood, they go out of their way to go and make this a big deal. And that is especially with award season, because I'm just going to say this right now. Regardless of what this project is going to be, unless it turns out to be like a disaster, it turns out to be one of Quentin Tarantino's weakest films, if that is not the case, then I could imagine it's going to be a massive awards competitor, because making this your last project, like, that gets you massive bonus points in order to go and actually win some awards. And we have actually, seen this very recently. Like, even if it's not like fully confirmed that this could be your last, like, they will go and award you just in case if it might be. Like, take a look at this year's Oscars, for example. The fact that Hayao Miyazaki won the Oscar, or won his second Oscar, with The Boy and the Heron. And from there, he managed to win that. Like, a big key player as to why is because of Hayao Miyazaki's age. Like, he's not getting any younger. He's already at his mid-80s right now. And there is a probability that maybe this could be his last feature film before he would go and pass away. Yes, we have heard reports that he is making another movie, but for now, like, the Academy decided that they're just going to be cautious, and they're just going to go and give it to Hayao Miyazaki. And I feel like when Quentin Tarantino is going to release his last film, that's how Hollywood is going to treat him. And that's how award season will be treating him as well. Especially like with the Oscars, the Golden Globes, the BAFTAs, the Critics' Choice Awards, what have you, they're gonna go and award Tarantino handsomely. Like rather it be with like Best Director wins, or maybe even with a Best Picture win, like to really go and cap off his grand finale in a major way. I feel like that's going to be the case. I know I'm making like a stupidly early prediction of it, but knowing how Hollywood can be, and knowing how people in general can be when they would hear that a prominent auteur would be doing their final piece of work, like that's going to be something that will grab so much attention. And it's going to be like one of the biggest moments of that particular year, not just in Hollywood, not just for movies, but in general. So again, who knows what his last feature is going to be, because certainly, well, for now, it's not going to be the Movie Critic, even though it does sound like an interesting concept. And I'll admit, it is intriguing to hear that he was thinking about the possibility of turning it into a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spin-off, especially starring Brad Bird, with Brad Pitt's character, Cliff Booth. And especially, like, I mean, as a critic, as a film critic myself, I would definitely be interested to see a movie that would star a movie critic, especially coming from a prominent auteur like Quentin Tarantino. I would have been down to see that, but for now, we're just gonna have to wait and see with what his next movie is going to be. And I think, honestly, we're gonna have to wait. Like, I don't think we're gonna see this for quite a while. Like, not even in 2 years. I'm expecting maybe somewhere in, like, 2027 at the earliest, or probably more likely, like, if not 2027, either in 2028 or even in 2029, that's when we're going to see Quentin Tarantino's last feature film. And that's going to be the big thing that everyone is going to pay attention to, and maybe even make over $1 billion at the box office. I mean, I could be wrong, of course, but I'm just making a little bit of a prediction. It's just fascinating to go and see what Quentin Tarantino is going to be up to. And like already, there's just so much hype for that final film that he has. So who knows what he's going to bring to the table, but I know a lot of people are going to keep an eye on it. All right, so with that said, I would now like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the possibility of what is Quentin Tarantino's last feature film, and what do you think about the Movie Critic being scrapped? Are you disappointed that that idea is not going to go anywhere? Are you excited to see Quentin Tarantino's final film? And especially if you are a Quentin Tarantino fan, I want to know your thoughts on this. All right, so let's see what we got. This is disappointing to hear that the Movie Critic won't be the last Quentin Tarantino film. I understand Tarantino's point of view, especially how he wants to end on a high point before he stops making films. I don't want him to stop making films personally, but I hope he can make something that is best to his interests and end strongly. Let him cook. All right. Man, even if you are Quentin Tarantino, it's hard to get a movie out due to creative reasons. I have no idea why, but who knows? He could go back to this and make this his last film, or it will be a completely different movie. He will instead be doing it for his final film. But hey, a movie critic doesn't sound like a good idea, to be honest. I don't know how critics are like in the 70s, but I would like to see that. All right, let's see what else we got. It's a shame that the Movie Critic isn't going through, since it sounded like a great idea. I'm not sure how Cliff Booth would have fit into it, but the story sounded like it would have been really emotional and thought-provoking. A 90-minute adaptation of the speech at the end of Ratatouille, maybe. But alas, I do have to wonder what he's doing next and why he's stopping at just 10 movies. Oh wait, how many? Insert obvious Tarantino foot observation here again. Yeah, oh, of course. He has to go and finish off at 10 because that's how many toes people have. Or at least in general. Yeah, of course. If we're going to talk about Quentin Tarantino, we cannot escape without making at least one foot fetish reference. Oh, of course. You know, like, you gotta end up, you know, like, if you're gonna end off with you know, if you're gonna end off your movie career, you gotta end off with a really big and seductive and juicy toe. I mean, with a movie. I mean, it's a movie. Oh boy, I'm just gonna go and stick to that right now before sounding like Dan Schneider. All right. Anyways, what other comments are there? For me, I'm very curious how Quentin Tarantino's final film turns out. With how much of a prominent director he is, I can imagine it is going to be a big deal in Hollywood. So overall, I'm curious to see how it will go. Also, I'm wondering, what's your favorite Quentin Tarantino movie? That's honestly a good question. You know, I thought about it, and, you know, and I've seen some and definitely enjoyed a good bunch, but honestly, for now, I'm going to say Inglourious Bastards. Like, that thing was just flat out awesome, so, I'm going with that one for now. Any other comments? I know, like, not a lot of people have, much to say about this, but, let's see, anything else? I guess not. I mean, we could go and, we could go and have our break here and then move on to the next story. So, if that would be the case, then, you know what? Let's go and do it. So, we're going to go on to our next break. And when we do return, we will have a very interesting discussion about the future of Paramount. Because I know there are a lot of possibilities of, who's going to be the next owner of Paramount. But there is one surprising addition. There is, one new competitor in the race to go and get Paramount. And, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this, but there's going to be a lot to go and talk about. So stay tuned for that. And welcome back. Now, on our next story, we will be talking about Paramount. And as you may probably know, Paramount lately has not been doing well. Like, their businesses have been, they've been getting, like, worse and worse and worse. I mean, say what you will about some of the other companies, like with, like with Disney or Warner Brothers and stuff like that, but Paramount, they have been debatably suffering the most in terms of the major Hollywood competitors or the major Hollywood studios out there. So much so that right now they are looking for a new owner. They're looking for a different company to go and buy them out in order to rehabilitate Paramount to get themselves back on their feet, but now under a different leadership, rather it be through like a much bigger corporation or something else. But either way, Paramount is just looking for new management, for someone else to go in and give them the finances needed in order to go and help reshape the company in order to become better. And over the past few months, we have been hearing some rumors, or at least we have heard some considerations about what the company might end up becoming. There have been some talks about the possibility that maybe it would merge with Warner Brothers, or another one that technically is still ongoing, that Skydance Media would come in and that they would go and acquire Paramount. There are those possibilities. But one came out of nowhere and decided to go and try this out. And honestly, I gotta say, it is the most surprising of the bunch. And that is regarding Sony. Yes, Sony has put themselves in the race to go and consider if they would go and acquire Paramount Global. Now, this did not start out with like Sony just coming in and asking for an offer. This is actually mainly because of a management firm by the name of Apollo Global Management. And they came in, and there was at one point, they tried to make an offer to go and acquire Paramount by themselves. Like, they went and asked, oh, hey, Paramount, what's up? We see that you have problems. You're looking for new management, but, we can do that for you. We can be the new management for you. How about if we give you $26 billion? How does that sound? And Paramount, they pretty much just said, nah, we're good. So they flat out rejected that offer. But Apollo does not want to go and give up. They still want to have ownership of Paramount. And this is where Sony came in. They went and Apollo just went and asked for the help of Sony to see if maybe they can go and offer a brand new and maybe even better bid for the ownership and acquisition of Paramount. In fact, I believe they have stated that the deal that they have been thinking about specifically, reading once again from my source on The Hollywood Reporter, it states, the New York Times first reported the Sony talks, adding that no offer has been made, given that the executive negotiating window is still in place. The Times reported that one structure under consideration would see Sony and Apollo effectively take Paramount private, with Sony owning a majority of the company, with Apollo operating as a minority owner. Now, again, keep in mind that there is no official offer that has been put in place, but Sony and Apollo are just considering the idea of maybe owning Paramount. That is the key thing to go and keep in mind from all this, while all the other offers are being put into consideration, while Paramount is considering other deals about what they can do. So I'm just going to say that when I first saw this article pop out, I was rather surprised to go and hear this, because out of all the major companies that are considering doing mergers and acquisitions and all that kind of stuff, I never actually thought that Sony would be out there to go and look to find like one of their major competitors and to go and actually acquire them. Because some have argued that, well, Sony Pictures is also in that category of major studios that lately, they have not been doing great. Yes, they have put out some very successful films in the recent few years, including Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But especially this year, Sony Pictures has not been in great shape, or at least their 2024 is off to a pretty bad start, especially when you, I've mentioned this in the last episode, but you got Madam Web that was a complete disaster, and then you got Ghostbusters Frozen Empire that became pretty much a disappointment. So from there, you wouldn't think that Sony Pictures would go out there and maybe have a chat with their other competitors to see if they would go and either buddy up or have a full-on acquisition. I know in the past there have been rumors about maybe another company acquiring Sony Pictures from the corporation. But still though, I never thought we would be in a position where Sony would be in consideration to go and have ownership of Paramount. And honestly, let's just go into the hypotheticals here. Let's just go and imagine, what if that outcome does occur? What if Sony does end up owning Paramount? Well, in that regard, you have to go and ask, well, Paramount will then be in a position where they will own two major Hollywood studios with both Sony Pictures and Paramount. And chances are, maybe we could see a full-on amalgamation where they're going to fuse the two together, make one big merger where Sony would be combined with Paramount. And then you would have this, a bit of a bigger media empire. It's pretty much the same thing about what we thought about before with the fusion between Warner Brothers and Paramount, and how that could ultimately go and turn out, especially Sony having a much bigger film and TV corporation under their belt. Now that they would have this massive library of content that they could go under, that they could actually really benefit more in animation, especially they don't have to rely just on Sony Animation anymore. Now they actually have like Nickelodeon, where they could go and explore like all the other franchises that they have in there, including like SpongeBob, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Smurfs, unironically going back to Sony, and all that kind of stuff, you know, like they would, you know, there's a lot of benefit for Sony Pictures to go and actually own to go and own Paramount and put them in a position that would make them far bigger than they previously were before, or that they ever were before. And not to mention, it would mean that now Sony could enter upon the streaming wars, where now with technically it would also mean that they would own Paramount Plus. And beforehand, they were thinking that they would just go and sell their movies to other streaming platforms like Netflix and Disney Plus and put their movies there. But now they can have their own streaming platform where they can put up both the Paramount movies and the Sony movies, that they can offer like this, you know, this bigger streaming platform that can offer like much more content than they ever could before. It could make Sony a legitimate competitor in the streaming wars with their version of Paramount Plus. That could be a massive possibility. But then again, I completely understand that the idea of that could actually be frightening, especially when it is like one Hollywood entity just completely eating up another Hollywood entity. Especially with the fact that, I mean, if you're not a fan of Disney owning Fox right now, or if you're not a fan of the idea of like that possible merger with Warner Brothers and Paramount, or like the idea of Universal maybe owning Warner Brothers and stuff like that, if you're not a fan of those types of mergers and acquisitions, then I can understand that the idea of merging Sony and Paramount, or having the Sony Corporation own both Sony Pictures and Paramount, it's not ideal. It's not that appealing, and it feels like, again, it's being one step closer to a full-on monopoly. You know, that doesn't sound that great right there, and it does sound a bit more frightening that it's just going to lead to another episode of like that Disney Fox acquisition that we have seen a few years ago. But I'm just going to go and state this right now. Is this actually going to happen? Do I think that Sony has a strong chance to go and actually acquire Paramount, especially when they are getting the additional help of Apollo? And in my opinion, no, not really. Like maybe there is a small chance, but it is far less likely than it is that we would end up seeing Sony acquiring Paramount. I could be wrong, but I highly doubt it. And it is for two reasons specifically. Reason number one is because right now, the talks with Paramount and Skydance, they are still strong. And so far, it looks like Skydance is still the leading competitor in terms of the possibility of who's going to own Paramount. And I mean, there have not been any reports so far that the discussions have not been great, or that maybe David Ellison, the head of Skydance Media, would go and bail out. Like right now, as I am recording this, they're just discussing about some of the strategies they can do in order to go and help things out, in order to reshape Paramount. And not just with Skydance, but technically they're going to try to acquire it alongside another company called Redbird Capital. So again, just to get back into my source, it's actually around here where it actually states the talks between Skydance and Paramount continue, with the source saying that the Ellison-led company has articulated a plan to deliver operating efficiencies and to leverage the executive teams at both Skydance and Redbird, including former NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell, to help turn Paramount around. Paramount will remain a public company under the Skydance deal. So in that regard, it looks like things are going fine. They're talking about strategies of what they can do to help make Paramount be better. So far, that relationship, it still seems pretty nice. And I still think that Skydance is going to be the most likely outcome. And reason number 2, and this is the one that I think is the most significant one of them all, one thing that you have to keep in mind is that the Sony Corporation, and I'm not talking about Sony Pictures, I mean the parent company, Sony Pictures, the company that is responsible for Sony Pictures, for PlayStation, for all the electronics like the TVs, the headphones, and all that kind of stuff. They are a Japanese company. They are completely owned by Japan. And in that regards, that's going to lead to some massive consequences in terms of competing against the US government. Like, if Sony would go and actually acquire Paramount, they would be in some serious legal troubles. In fact, even this article here, they actually pointed that out. It's with this one sentence here where they said that, I don't know why it's going way too high there. It states right here, there are federal regulations restricting foreign ownership of U.S. broadcast stations, and as a Japanese company, Sony could face scrutiny under such rules. So, in that regards, because the Sony Corporation is considered a foreign company, this would technically constitute as foreign interference. Maybe that might not be the correct term, but there is a little bit of like a conflict of the fact that a company like Sony would just come in and suddenly they decided to own another company like Paramount, where they actually have some broadcast stations. And in that regards, they would have, like, even before starting any projects with Paramount, there would have to be a whole lot of legal issues that Sony would have to go and address. And one possible outcome that they would have to do at that point is to probably shatter Paramount into pieces and then sell it in parts. Because there would be no way that the Sony Corporation could own either CBS or even Nickelodeon. Like, they would probably have to either shut both of their channels down, or they would have to go and sell them away. They would have to sell CBS. They would have to sell Nickelodeon, because they cannot be allowed to have those TV channels in particular. So in that regards, I think honestly, from there, it's just going to be a lot more trouble than what it would be worth. And I don't know if Sony would be ready to go and handle those, or if they would have a completely different strategy of what they can do to go and approach this. But either way, this really does highlight that if Sony would go and acquire Paramount, then Paramount would become completely different than what we know them as today. It would be even far more different than the changes that Disney has done to 20th Century Fox by turning it into 20th Century. At least with 20th Century, there are some elements that are pretty familiar from what it used to be. But with Sony owning Paramount, yeah, those changes are going to be very drastic. They're going to be very noticeable, and I'm sure it's going to be something that will upset a lot of people if they would go and do so. So all of this is pretty much to go and say that, honestly, I feel like I feel like with this entire outcome, like, it's very interesting to see Sony is now getting involved and possibly putting in a bid to go and own Paramount. But again, I feel like it is not going to be likely. So far, the talks with others, like with Skydance, it's going much better. And seeing the consequences of what's going to happen if Sony does go and acquire it, honestly, it feels like something that would receive a lot of backlash, and it would put them into some serious legal trouble with the US government. I mean, let's face the facts, folks. Considering that the government, like the US government right now, they are desperate to have, they really want TikTok to be banned, or at the very least, they want TikTok to be completely disassociated with China in every single way. So if they're really that paranoid about TikTok because of its connection with China, what makes you think that the government is going to be cool with Paramount if it has connections with Japan because of Sony? So honestly, at that point, it's just going to be safe to say, like, yeah, maybe they're gonna try, but I don't think that bet is gonna go anywhere. Like Sony is just gonna have Sony Pictures, while Paramount is gonna be going elsewhere. So I just want to go and include my piece on this entire thing. All right, so with that said, now it's time I would like to go and ask the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what did you all think about the possible bid from Sony and Apollo to go and own Paramount? Do you guys think that's going to happen? Do you guys think it's a good idea? Do you guys think it's a bad idea? Let me know your thoughts on that. All right, let's see now. So, if the merger between Paramount and Skydance doesn't work out, then it looks like Sony and Apollo will try to buy them out. I was surprised to hear this news, but if it does come true, then the Sony Corporation will own both Columbia and Paramount, as well as other companies like Nickelodeon and MTV, for example, along with other franchises from Paramount, making it the biggest acquisition from Sony since 1990. I highly doubt it will happen, but the idea sounds insane to me. Yeah, exactly. Like when you own Paramount, you're going to have like this massive package, not just of movies and TV shows, but also of TV stations, like an entire streaming platform and so much more. You're going to get quite a lot with Paramount Pictures, and I think a significant amount of them Sony cannot handle, and some of them are for legitimate legal purposes. Like, again, if Sony owns Paramount, then the fate and the future of stuff like Comedy Central, MTV, Nickelodeon, CBS, like they're gonna be questioned. Like, there might be a possibility that they would have to end because, well, Sony could not be allowed to own them. Let's see what else we have here. Let's see. I'm sorry, but if Sony ends up getting more involved in this, it would actually make them pretty stupid. Not just because mergers are terrible, but because Sony is probably the only major studio right now that isn't swimming in debt due to investing insane amounts of money in streaming. But if they buy Paramount and have to manage Paramount Plus, that would just put them in serious debt. This probably won't happen, but it's always annoying to deal with these rumors that would have serious consequences. Now, I just would like to say that technically this is not a rumor. I'm sure it has happened that Sony and Apollo has considered to go and acquire Paramount, but I guess you could say it would be rumors if they're actually pursuing that deal. So I just want to go and make that clarification. But you do bring up a very good point there. Let's see now. Say what you will about Disney and Fox. Disney and Fox did work because they had a relationship with each other for a long time. Makes sense with why they merge. But for Paramount and Sony, yeah, I don't see the connection with each other. It's just not a good thing at all because of different country politics about mergers. The Skydance idea isn't that bad because they make movies together and Skydance seems to be in a better shape. So I do think Paramount might end up with Skydance. Exactly. I think the big factor that with Sony, the thing is Sony Pictures is not, Sony Pictures is not just like a whole company in itself. Like, it's just a piece of a bigger corporation. And I know some people could say that with many of the other studios, they're kind of the same thing. Like, Walt Disney Pictures is just a piece of the Walt Disney Company, or Universal is just a piece of Comcast. But with Sony, however, considering that they offer so many different electronics, they offer so many different types of media as well. The fact that they would, the fact that they have Sony Pictures, like, a big reason why they're not too worried if they would have like terrible years or things really don't work out well for them. The thing is that they can rely on the Sony Corporation to have their backs. Like, even at their worst, even when their movies are failing and consistently losing millions of dollars again and again and again, they still have the commitment and the loyalty of the Sony Corporation that they will make sure that things will be okay with their movie production. So in that regards, having Paramount, I think, again, it's just going to be a lot more trouble than it's worth. All right, let's see now. I'm both worried and surprised about Sony possibly buying Paramount. On one hand, it would be cool since that might have a bigger library and own Nickelodeon's content with theirs, but on the other hand, this might put Sony Pictures Animation on the chopping block and it might shut down. And Nickelodeon and CBS might shut down as well. I think we might have to wait and see if it does happen and what Sony will do if it does happen. And that is honestly another thing to go and consider. I know that might sound like an exaggeration from that comment, but they're not necessarily that wrong. Because one thing that Nickelodeon, or what Paramount has over Sony Animation, is that Paramount has animated franchises that are still strong, that are still ongoing. The problem with Sony Pictures Animation right now is that they have a lot of franchises that have burned out. You could argue that some of them are still going, but let's be honest. Other than Spider-Verse, what else do they have that's still going strong? Literally none of them. I mean, you got Hotel Transylvania that is pretty much completely burnt out, especially after that last movie. And then you have like some other franchises. They're still trying to continue with TV shows like Open Season and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. But you go and ask the fans if they enjoy watching those shows. You tell me if they're interested in any more of those franchises after watching those TV shows. I'm just saying. But the point that I want to go and try to make is that, yeah, like if Sony would go and own Paramount, there might be a possibility that they're going to look into Nickelodeon for that to be their major kid franchise, their kid brand, more so than Sony Animation. It would be like that meme of that red-dressed girl that, that's Nickelodeon, and then you see Sony, like, they're just going to be turning to check out that girl, like, ooh, and like the angry girlfriend would be Sony Animation. It would be exactly like that. Let's see, what other comments would there be? Or I think I'm just going to read one more comment, from the looks of things. Well, another Hollywood merger. Those always go well, but, seriously, the idea of Sony buying Paramount is a bad idea. I can tolerate the Disney-Fox deal, but I despise Warner Brothers Discovery, so I hate this idea. Also, I really don't want to think about the fate of Nickelodeon if this happens, considering their reputation is dead in the water right now. Yeah, well, technically, that's like a whole other discussion right there. Alright, but anyways, we got one more break we're gonna go, and when we do return, we will have our grand finale, in which we will be watching another trailer. And, speaking of Paramount, it will actually be from them. And this is one that, oh boy, it has a lot of people talking, so stay tuned for that. And now, everyone, it is time that we shall go and cap off this episode with the grand finale. And with this grand finale, I decided to go and save what is debatably the biggest animation news for last. And honestly, just looking back at this episode, well, technically this would count as the only animation-specific news that we would go and talk about. But anyways, for real though, this is actually a trailer that just came out, and there have been some people, specifically those who went to CinemaCon, they were able to go and experience this trailer first, but now we actually get a chance to go and see it, considering that it got released into the public. But one major reason also why I decided to go and save this for last is mainly because, honestly, I feel like even though I'm not particularly a major fan of the franchise, but even I feel like I have a lot to discuss here. I have a lot of opinions about this. So without further ado, let us now go and check out the trailer for the upcoming animated feature, Transformers 1.
Hey, what is up, Transformers fans? Well, this is it, Brian. Our trailer is about to drop.
And that is Transformers 1, to which the movie shall be coming soon. Yeah, thank you. It shall be coming soon to theaters in September 20th. Now, it's honestly very fascinating to see the reactions of this trailer, because I think at best is that this trailer so far has been very mixed, and I've heard a lot of varying opinions where some people say that they loved it, and at the same time, some people say that they hate it. And for me, honestly, I listened to both sides to what they were talking about and stuff. And for me, like, even just through like experiencing this trailer, and keep in mind, like, I've stated this before in past videos and stuff like that, but I'm not necessarily a major Transformers fan. Even as a child growing up, I was more into Beast Wars, which I actually recently visited last year. It was actually a surprisingly enjoyable series with some real golden moments. Like, there were a few episodes that was like, oh my god, this is like way better than it ever should be. But yeah, like, honestly with Transformers, like, I'm more or less indifferent, but like, I could see like the fun of it, especially like with the toys that like they are the main thing to go and sell. And when watching Transformers 1, even at that, honestly, like, there's a lot of mixed emotions that I personally have. Okay, now, before we go in and, like, get into, like, some of the problems it may have, I just want to go and get some of the positives out of the way. Now, one that might be controversial is that I am actually a fan of the idea of showing Optimus Prime and Megatron as buddies. Like, you know, I actually do like this idea of, like, this whole prequel, and we actually see both Megatron and Optimus Prime, where they started out as friends, you know, they were like best buddies, they were like brothers and stuff like that, and then we learn about the origins of how Megatron turned evil, and how their, how their rivalry, or not even rivalry, how they became enemies over time. Like, okay, in that regards, honestly, I'm open to the idea, and I think there's a lot of great possibilities of what you could do with that kind of story, okay? So, in that regard, so far, like, the concept, I'm down for it. Like, that's actually pretty cool. Another thing that I liked, of course, the animation. I mean, this animation, I'm not gonna lie, is actually pretty awesome, especially the moments where they do get action-packed, especially like this moment right over here. Like, I gotta say, it's actually pretty cool. Like, it's like, the action looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun. They're gonna make it intense. They're gonna make it fast-paced. Like, I like, from the stuff that you're looking for with Transformers, with transforming robots into action, okay, that, I think it might actually deliver, especially with this animation, really working a lot into the, into the world building and presenting Cybertron as well. You know, it actually does look very nice. It actually does look very polished. So already I feel like the animation is one of the stronger suits of this movie. So they already nailed that look, like, to make an animated Transformers film. So already the style, the designs, and the animation in itself is already great. Like, that already, like, they managed to sell it in looking like a pretty solid Transformers film. And another thing I will say, one thing that admittedly, it did caught me off guard, but I did actually like some of the comedy. I'll bring this back later, but honestly, there are a few moments where I'm surprised that Bumblebee actually did get some laughs out of me. Like, even the moment where he tried to transform into a car and was looking for his wheels, like this moment here. Like, hold on. Woo! Like, honestly, it did get me, like, a few laughs. There are some moments where the comedy was actually pretty effective, and, maybe this could actually work out in the direction that it may want to go. Like, if it's able to get me to chuckle on some of the jokes here, then you know what, maybe this could actually, maybe the comedy could turn out to be a pretty enjoyable thing in this feature. It might be more of an asset than it would be a detriment. So I'll go and give it credit onto that. That, and also probably the big thing that people are praising it the most, the one thing that people are the most excited about with this movie, is that there are no humans. Finally, after so many feature films with the Transformers, we are finally gonna have one that is just going to focus on the Transformers and nothing else. That is just the Transformers in Cybertron, and all of the characters featured are Transformers and maybe some Bionicle looking characters, and that is it. So if you don't want any of those annoying human interactions that have constantly plagued many of the Michael Bay films, well, don't you worry, there's going to be none of that in Transformers 1. So already there's a lot of there's already a lot of promise, there's already a lot of positive aspects from it. But then there are also some complaints that I personally do have. And also like the criticisms that I have heard again and again is actually in regards to the tone. Because safe to say, you don't have to be a Transformers fan to know that this right here does not feel like a Transformers movie in general. Like this right here, nah, that like, no matter what version of Transformers it may be, maybe like, rather it be the Transformers from the 80s or the Michael Bay version or what have you, this does not feel like Transformers whatsoever. It feels like a typical modern animated kids flick. And honestly, one thing I gotta say, what I personally feel like something that I'm just absolutely tired of seeing again and again and again, that now it's at the point where it's starting to become an absolute cliche for animated films, is having freaking Keegan-Michael Key. I don't know, I'm honestly starting to feel like almost every animated feature that I would go and watch, it has to have freaking Keegan-Michael Key. Like, he's starting to pop up like anywhere and everywhere. I don't know if the dude excuse me, like choking on my own spit right there. Like, I don't know if Keegan-Michael Key is just trying to go and like show up in just about every single animation studio and whatever movie they would try to make. But honestly, it just feels, for me, I feel like whenever I would go and watch a movie on the big screen, there's a high likelihood it would go and feature Keegan-Michael Key. Like, and no matter what it may be, and even if I want to try to take a break from animated films and watch something in live action, there's a chance that Keegan-Michael Key might actually be there as well. I mean, no offense to Keegan-Michael Key. He definitely is a very talented actor. But honestly, holy crap, do people keep hiring, I feel like people are hiring him way too much to the point where it feels like he's absolutely everywhere. Like, even if I want to escape animated films, I'm just going to go and watch a simple live action movie. You know what? Let's go and check out Wonka. Maybe that'll be like a nice little escapism from Keegan-Michael Key. Ah, son of a fish. It honestly feels like that. And seeing Keegan-Michael Key in this, where he would play a far more goofy and comedic Bumblebee, like this one right over here, like this little moment.
I'm actually working on some nicknames. The one I'm floating right now is Badassatron, which is actually pronounced Badassatron.
This, I feel like, okay, this almost sounds like just about half of all the characters that Keegan-Michael Key would go and play right over here. And honestly, like, yeah, there are some, like I did state, there are some comedic moments that I think were actually funny. Like, they did caught me off guard. But I just gotta say, like, this introduction to Bumblebee with Keegan-Michael Key, this was probably the cringiest part of the entire trailer that we have seen. Like, this annoying thing right over here just doesn't work out. And I just want to go and state, like, yes, so much of this really feels like the typical animated feature, but there is kind of like a specific feel that goes into it. There is like, it feels a little bit too vague to just say like it feels like another typical animated feature, because it does feel like something that you have seen before, but it's hard to pinpoint where. And some people have actually pointed this out, and it honestly makes perfect sense. Because one thing that you really have to keep in mind is that the director of this movie is Josh Cooley, a Pixar veteran whom his last credentials was being the director of Toy Story 4. And suddenly it makes perfect sense. The biggest problem with what I have with this trailer so far is that this is a Transformers movie that's trying to be a Pixar movie. Like a lot of the gags that they would try to do, and I would even debatably say even a bit of the animation style feels like it's trying to be Toy Story. Like even with this part over here. Like, even the way that Bumblebee runs, like, it almost feels very similar to how, like, Woody or Buzz would run in the Toy Story movies. It's just, I look at this and I feel like, yeah, like, this real, it really feels like it's going in a completely different direction and probably a little bit too different, where the identity, like, honestly, I'm kind of questioning, like, why does this have to be a Transformers movie when none of the soul feels like it is a Transformers movie? Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that this would go and become like something that's just terrible or anything like that. And I'm not saying that Transformers should not be funny whatsoever. They're definitely allowed to have some comedic moments. In fact, it's more welcoming. It's actually better for Transformers to actually have some comedic moments, because usually the tone of it is just cheesy. Like, it's almost like they're self-aware of how ridiculous their own concept is, and that their main goal is to go and sell toys. Like, I get that is kind of the big thing that they're trying to go and do. But the thing is that with this right over here, it feels like they got that memo and they read it completely wrong, where now they decided to go and turn Transformers into a full-on goofy cartoon. And I don't know if this would really work, honestly. It's just, and even like with the designs, I feel like it wants to try to stay true to Transformers, but with the tone of it all, like it should have it's either they should have benefited to try to have a bit more of a cartoony design, or that they would like hold back the tone where they would just go back into the regular like 80s cheesiness, where they would kind of take themselves seriously, but they have some self-awareness of their own ridiculousness. And I think that is kind of this big, and that is the big thing that's really dividing people, and why I understand the criticisms against this trailer with Transformers 1. It's just that the tone and the style of humor that they are trying to do, it feels out of place. And again, I'm on board with a lot of the concepts. I mean, again, the animation looks very nice. I do like the idea of this origin story of the Transformers, where there are no humans and it's all set in Cybertron. But then you would have the execution where it's trying so hard to be a Pixar movie. That's the thing where I feel like, I don't know, like that's something that it doesn't sound like it might work. Unless Josh Cooley might find a way to really actually nail it. Like if it's trying to be like a Pixar film, then you better make it as good as a Pixar film. Or at the very least, make this as good as Toy Story 4. I mean, I love Toy Story 4, but I mean, if you're just gonna go and try to be like another Toy Story movie, then it ain't gonna freaking work out unless you manage to nail the execution perfectly. Like, this is a case where people will not accept anything less than greatness. Unless you can pull off something amazing, then people are just gonna flat out reject this. So that's why, honestly, I have to go and talk about this, because I just feel like it is just very conflicting, because of the fact that there are a lot of great things about it where I could see how this could actually be pretty enjoyable. But at the same time, I do see some of the criticisms, and it honestly feels like it makes sense as to why not many people are on board with this Transformers in particular. And there is one more thing that I would like to go and discuss about. And one thing that I feel like not many people are discussing that is very intriguing, and that is in regards to its release date, September 20th. Mainly because of the fact that Transformers 1 is going to be released at the same time, on the same day, as another robot-themed animated feature, The Wild Robot. And honestly, it has me wondering, is there going to be like a bit of a conflict going on? Like, is Universal and Paramount not worried about like what they might do to each other if they might end up cannibalizing each other? Because I'll just say right now, it has been a long time since we have seen two animated features be released on the same day on the big screen. I know that like this year somehow it seems to be a little bit of a theme where we do have movies like Orion in the Dark and The Tiger's Apprentice, and then we would have Inside Out 2 and Ultraman Rising being released on the same day. But some of those movies, they're released on streaming. So like, I know it's kind of like debatable if that would count or not, but this one though, the fact that these are two big screen movies, that is a major significance. I tried looking it up, and I think the last time that it happened was over 3 decades ago, where we saw Fievel Goes West and Disney's Beauty and the Beast be released at the same time. You could correct me if I'm wrong, if there was another 2 animated features released on the same day, but so far, I think that was the last one that ever came out. So I feel like at that point, all I'm wondering is if there's going to be one that might chicken out and move to a different place. If either Transformers or The Wild Robot might go and like move away from each other so that they don't hinder each other's performances. Because keep in mind, like with like, I could see some of the benefits and the flaws with one another. Like with Transformers 1, Transformers 1, it's a major franchise, which I could see like the big appeal, like go see the new Transformers movie. So like it has that going for it. And then you have The Wild Robot, in which it's just an original animated feature, or it's one that is not based on a popular franchise. But then again, you could argue that, well, Transformers 1's reputation so far is pretty mixed, whereas The Wild Robot is actually very much hype. I don't know what's going to be happening. I think one might have to go in delay, or one would have to like maybe move forward to like an earlier September release, or maybe an August release. Who the fridge knows? But I feel like, honestly, the fact that they both have the same release dates, I feel like someone would have to go and take action. Otherwise, they both might end up becoming flops, or at least a box office disappointment because of it. I don't know. We'll just have to go and wait and see. And I think at this point, I'm just going to go and take a break right now. Not because I need to go to the bathroom or anything. I just want to go and reset the timer so that when I do come back, you'll have plenty of time to go and put out your opinion onto the Transformers 1 trailer, and what do you think and all that kind of stuff, so that we can have plenty of time to go and discuss about that. So let's just have a break, write down your thoughts on that, and we'll go from there. All right, so now that we had that nice little break, let me see what you all have to say in the chat wall right over here. So, this may be a hot take, but I thought the trailer sucks. Don't get me wrong, I do like the idea of a prequel film, including how Optimus Prime and Megatron become enemies, as well as no humans in there, but from the looks of it, it sucks from the direction, the comedy, too on-the-nose reference, writing, characters, and even the animation style looks too similar to Toy Story. Maybe it'll surprise me, but I thought it sucks. Also, you could say the same thing for Aquafina in appearing too much, too. Oh, I'm not denying that as well. I know that there's been so many, or debatably too many, animated features with Aquafina. I mean, there are times I did enjoy Aquafina. Like, I enjoyed her as Miss Tarantula and the bad guys and stuff like that, but I don't know. I feel like so far her inclusion in some movies, like it's a bit much, okay? Like we don't need Aquafina appearing in like all the other performances. Again, she's talented, but honestly, like you can hire other people than Aquafina. Let's see what else we have here. As a lifelong Transformers fan, I am hyped for this movie. I know people criticize the trailer for having a Marvel humor, but I don't agree with it. Aside from that criticism being overused, I would rather have this kind of humor as opposed to the raunchy, crude humor from the Bay films. Also, from my Transformers lore experience, and what I heard from Josh Cooley describe Optimus Prime and Megatron as Moose and Rames, something tells me that it's not going to be lighthearted as you may think. Yeah, that is true. I mean, we'll see how it goes, because we kind of know that, like, we know a bit of the ending that, like, Optimus Prime and Megatron are going to become enemies. Like, we will see, like, their friendship be completely broken. So maybe there could actually be that surprise that we will see how that relationship will just completely break off. And I mean, I will give credit to Josh Cooley based on what he has done, like with his writing in Inside Out and also his directing in Toy Story 4. Like, he knows how to do he knows how to do friendships very well. Like, whether it be with Woody and Forky or with Joy and Sadness, he's able to nail that. So maybe there is that possibility that with that kind of approach, he'll also go and give that to Optimus Prime and Megatron in order to go and carry the heart of the picture and have this end off on, like, probably a bittersweet or maybe more bitter note. So there is that possibility. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to this, not only because I'm a casual Transformers fan, but also we'll be getting another animated theatrical Transformers film since 1986. The animation is very nice, and the humor is pretty fun, especially with Bumblebee being like, well, I'm out. Funny that it will be released around the same time as The Wild Robot. Damn, we're getting a couple of Barbenheimer-style releases, eh? That is crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this would legit be a Barbenheimer one. Like, Barbenheimer, again, is like one of those very rare moments that it actually did work out. This, on the other hand, I feel like it's going to be more of a detriment than something that is beneficial. I don't see people hyping up both Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot as something that people have to see, they have to see together. Like, people are already preparing more, like, another possible Barbenheimer that people are trying to turn into a meme is with Moana 2 and Wicked. Like, that has more of a likelihood to be a Barbenheimer more so than what we are seeing with Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot. Let's see, what other comments would there be? I may be just a fan of Transformers, but after watching the trailer, on the other hand, I don't think I'm excited for this. I mean, the animation looks fascinating, and the concept of Optimus Prime and Megatron being buddies, but when it comes to the comedy, it's just flat out weak. This movie is as cringeworthy. This movie is as cringeworthy to me, just like that one Transformers anime video with an Autobot accidentally kissed a lady robot, and somehow how that kiss got her pregnant. I'm not joking. Look it up on YouTube. That sounds like some legitimate fan fiction shenanigans there. Especially, how does a Transformer get pregnant anyways? How the fridge does that work? Honestly, the only way I can imagine a robot getting pregnant is honestly, like, all I can imagine is like that 2005 Robots movie. They don't necessarily get pregnant. They get like an Amazon box where they have to build a freaking robot. That's what I can imagine. All right, let's see what else we got. While I myself am not a huge Transformers fan, I feel very mixed. On one hand, the animation looks great, and a lot of the ideas are interesting, but on the other hand, the humor is very hit and miss, and it definitely feels very different compared to the other Transformers projects. So overall, I'm very unsure on how to feel about this. Maybe it could be better than the Michael Bay movies, but not as good as Bumblebee or Rise of the Beast. I am sensing a little bit of a pattern. I guess, like, it depends on how much of a Transformers fan you are, if you are open to what you have just seen with Transformers 1. Like, the more you're a fan of Transformers, the less likely you're gonna like it. At least that's based on what I'm seeing here in the chat wall. I think, I might have to read one more comment, considering some of them are repeating now. I personally enjoyed this trailer. The animation looks awesome, it has a very all-star cast, and it has some good comedy. I'm honestly surprised that it is being released on the same day as The Wild Robot, but I will see it if I can watch both movies. Also, how are you going to review both movies if they are being released in theaters on the same day? that will have to wait and see. I mean, like, I'm just gonna take it one step at a time, and I still got plenty of other animated movies to go and review as the year will go by. But my strategy for now will be, if I will be lucky enough to get an early screening for at least one of them. If I could go and watch either Transformers 1 or The Wild Robot, I get an early screening of that so that on the day of, I'll go and put out a review of that movie, and then the next week would be the other movie. At least that's my strategy for now. If not, I'll see what I can do. Like, I'll have to try to figure that out along with, like, all my other plans. But again, let's just take this one step at a time. And with that said, folks, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this fun-filled adventure, and I hope you go and join me for the next time that we will have some more crazy stories that we will go and tell. And if you have enjoyed your time with AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then don't forget to go and subscribe to my Twitch channel, AniMat Live, or on the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel. But at the same time, don't forget to go and follow me on whatever podcast service you're listening to. If you are just listening to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then don't forget to go and follow me on Amazon, Spotify, or iTunes. And with that said and done, I would like to go and say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes!